production. And in a country like India, where 70% of the population classifies, I think, as vulnerable by any yardstick, I think we must be extremely cautious about carbon pricing and carbon trading. So at MSSRF, this is something we are very keenly interested on, and later this month we are holding a online consultation on safeguards for communities in the context of green credit and carbon trading programs. But I think that is just one level of the problem. There's a much larger issue, given our position on equity and climate justice. What exactly is the role of market approaches and carbon pricing and carbon trading? So I've taken a little more time than I thought, but so I'll thank you once again, all of you, and for the opportunity, and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those great thoughts. I think we all have something to think about. I will request your attention for about 10 more minutes. We have Dr. Krishna Vatsa joining us from online. He's the member of the National Disaster Management Agency. He was to be in the first panel, but he has a meeting to attend, and we will quickly hear from him on Zoom for a bit. Sir, can you hear us? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can, but we can't see you. We can now.
You can see me now.
Thank you so much, and apologies for keeping you waiting. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
So thank you very much for inviting me to the workshop. I always I appreciate these discussions. They give us clarity, they give us way forward. This is an area that is getting more and more attention and better traction, and I think a wide-ranging discussion is always helpful to flesh out the interventions. I would just begin by saying that this year, 2024, has witnessed an unusually prolonged and intense heat wave. And though we started our preparations, in November last year, and we thought that we have done a very good amount of preparedness at the state level. We have been asking all the states to prepare heat action plan. I think towards the end of the May, or the second half of the May, the temperature just increased suddenly, and it was for a very, very long period of time. Generally, it has a short spell of 2 to 3 days, and then the temperature comes down. But this time, the high temperature continued for a long period of time, and the difference between the day temperature and the night temperature also did not come down. So the impact of the heat wave was quite severe across the entire northern India, eastern India, western India. So many states had borne the brunt of the heat wave. As we are dealing with it, and there have been several meetings, review meetings. We are working with the states. We are working with the district administration to issue all the advisories, and all the alleviative measures. There are huge challenges, and I would like to underscore some of those challenges. One is that heat wave is kind of sometimes it gets invisibilized. It is spread across the country. Its impact is not immediately clear. It's unlike any other disaster that we deal with. So though we monitor it, it's difficult to find out how the people are coping with the impact. So these are disasters with very sharp local dimensions, and they have very varying impacts, even within a location, even within a city. There are certain cities that are more affected than the others. So, and the kind of monitoring capacity that we must have for understanding the impact of the heat wave across the districts, across the urban areas and rural areas has not really developed in a commensurate fashion. As the previous speaker mentioned, urban areas, of course, get more attention, and rural outreach is extremely important. And I think there is a need to involve the Panchayati Raj institutions in a more prominent manner to deal with the impact of heat wave. The second most important thing that we need to keep in mind is how the heat wave has a differentiated impact, how the vulnerability that people are dealing with is highly differentiated. There are certain segments that are more affected by heat wave than others. If we have women working in kitchen, they are definitely far more exposed to the heat wave. Informal sector workers, construction workers, they are very, very directly impacted by the heat wave. And though we have been working on the heat action plans, the heat action plan does not always show this kind of understanding of the differentiated impacts. So in that respect, we also need to work further on improving the heat action plans, which means that the heat action plans need to be tailored, need to be adapted to reflect the local context much better. And they definitely need to introduce those interventions which are targeting the most vulnerable sections. It also then suggests that we need to have more community involvement, more participation in preparing the heat action plan. It just cannot be a government-owned heat action plan. So right now, heat action plan is prepared by the city administration, the municipal corporation, or the district administration. But I think we need to have more widespread consultation while developing this. As the heat action plan emerges as the most important instrument or tool of dealing with heat waves, we also need to appreciate that it requires some capacity to prepare heat action plans. It requires some technical skills, some understanding, appreciation of data, so that we have a more viable, more effective heat action plan. So it's extremely important that we develop these capacities at the local level so that our heat action plans are more realistic, more effective, more practical, and at the same time, it's more targeted towards those who are bearing the impact of the heat wave. A big challenge for the heat action plan is to balance the short-term preparedness with long-term mitigation strategies. Last 4 or 5 years, we have been working on the heat action plans, and as a result of NDMA initiatives, now we have a large number of heat action plans being prepared. One of the issues that we always see, and it is partly a reflection of the process that we follow, that heat action plans are emphasizing the preparedness measures more. Perhaps in the next 2-3 years, we would see that heat action plans are also looking at long-term measures, what we call the adaptation measures. So there is definitely a need to balance this kind of a preparedness and mitigation measures. We need to bring in the elements of infrastructure improvements, urban planning, urban greenery, more water structures, watershed conservation, development. All those measures need to be included. But when we bring in some of these long-term measures, it's equally important that we also think of funding these heat action plans. And right now, the heat action plans are kind of supported through community resources, supported through various resources which are not which are not at a scale, I would say. So we need to think about funding the HAPs much better. When we prepare the heat action plans, we also need to think of how we are monitoring them. I mean, it cannot be a top-down approach. NDMA does not have the capacity. It's simply not possible for the NDMA to monitor the implementation of the heat action plan. These heat action plans need to be monitored at the local level. And I think there has to be, again, some capacity for local level monitoring. The local level ownership is extremely important. The discussion that I just engaged in brings out the importance of the whole of the government approach and the whole of the society approach, that we need to have participation of all the government agencies, different departments, but at the same time, we also need to bring in private sector, civil society, NGOs, and individuals. It has to be based on social responsibility, and an element of personal responsibility is also very, very important to make heat action plans viable. So, what is now critical is that we go in for a new generation of heat action plans that are more participatory, more community oriented, that are balancing the preparedness and mitigation measures, that are funded to some extent, and the funding should be based on pooling arrangements. So if we have to go in for these measures, and these measures have a kind of a sense of urgency now, what are some of the prerequisites that we need to develop or support? One, that we need to have capacity at the national, state, and the local levels. So, which means that we need to think of some training programs through which we can support the preparation and monitoring of the heat action plans. We should definitely think of setting up a digital platform for knowledge management on heat waves, how the local level issues need to be addressed. So we need to have these arrangements in place so that we have more targeted interventions, more balanced planning, localized monitoring, and comprehensive funding. And I think it requires that we collaborate more with the think tanks, with the local governments, with the academic institution to develop a more holistic, more integrated initiative aimed at addressing the challenges posed by heat waves. So, and I would like to thank the organizers because these kind of workshops lead to setting up of a community of practice in heat wave management, and I certainly look forward to a more active community of practice in this area. So this is what I would like to say by way of our recent interventions and initiatives and how and the future direction that they need to move in. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for those insights and also summarizing what's needed. I hope you could hear us.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all being patient. But before we break for tea,